Good morning. Today is August 4th, and we're going to be doing the real estate stats for Alameda County and Walnut Creek. So, a little bit about Alameda County. It's commonly called the East Bay over here in the Bay Area, and the biggest employers in Alameda County are Kaiser Permanente, has its headquarters there. And then we have Berkeley. You see Berkeley, Tesla, the factory in Fremont, where they first built all the Teslas. Now they have factories across the country. We have Lawrence Livermore Labs, right, closely affiliated with Berkeley. Sutter, so Palo Alto Medical Foundation and Sutter, biggest employer. Safeway headquarters in Alameda County. Chevron, as well as Workday. So let's take a look at the map so we can orient ourselves here. The stats we're going to be going over today are median price, sales volume, active versus pending number, the ratio of sales to list price, the dollar per square foot, months of inventory, and days on market. So here's the red outline here of Alameda County. Okay, so Oakland here, Oakland up here, and then Fremont here down south, right? And then the Tri-Valley area here, Livermore, Dublin, Pleasanton. So let's jump into the stats. We're going to look at the county level first, and then we'll go down to the city level of Walnut Creek. So here are the stats. Shrink this a little bit here. Okay, so the first thing we're looking at here is the median sales price and the sales volume, right? So it's kind of hard to see on this chart here with the labels. Let me take off the labels. Okay, to make it easier to see, right? We can see here, this is the median sales price of single-family homes in Alameda County going back the last 3 years. So we're at about 1.25 here, volume being $1 billion. So it's up, right, the volume, and the prices are also up, right, but they're down. They're definitely cooled since last year, right? So you can see here we had up to 1.4 million in April of last year, right, and we're down to 1.25, right? So we've definitely noticed some cooling of the market. The next, we're going to look at number of actives and number of pendings. So pendings means the seller has accepted an offer, right? So let's actually make this both line. Both line charts to make it easier to see. Okay, so the green is number of active, so we definitely shot up, right? So close to the highest it's been in the past 3 years, and the number of pendings have kind of stayed steady here, right? So it did pick up towards the summertime, right? And the number of actives is kind of dropping down, right? But we're definitely higher than we were last year. So let's see that in the data. For Alameda County, so we're at 1,400 available and 745 in contract. So let's look back to last year. Was at 1,250, so 200 more, right? And only about 40 more got into contract. So things are transacting a little bit slower, and we should see that in the next two stats, which is the ratio of sales price to the original asking price and the price per square foot here. Look over the dollar per square foot. Okay. All right, so we're still over 100%, which is really good, right? Which means, and let's compare July this year to July last year. So 106, now it's 102. So not selling as high above, right? And then we can even see, right, it was at 110%, right, in the spring of last year. And the price per square foot is $745 per square foot, right? So like it was up to close to 800 here. And then last year at the peak, it was $800, over $800 per square foot. And now we'll see the months of inventory and how long it's taking to sell, days on market, okay? So the left column is months of inventory and the right is days to sell. So 2 months of inventory, right? So it's 16 days, so it's definitely picked up. Still fast, right? So less than 21 days, right? But like back here in the peak times, right? It was like almost getting down to single digits, right? So 10, 11 days on the market. Right now we're at 16, right? So it's definitely higher. And then in 2022, single digit number of days on market, right? So super duper fast. So it's definitely taking longer to sell. And let's look at the difference between single family homes and condos and townhouses. Right, so let's first start looking at the prices. So the median sales price and the total sales volume. Let's look at number of sales. It's a good indicator. So we're looking at the median sales price of condos and townhouses and the number of sales. So the median sales price was kind of hovered between 6 and 800K here, and the number is kind of stayed steady around 200. So it's about 722. So it's kind of like pretty flat, right? So we go all the way back to January of 2022 at 725, right? And the number of sold is a little bit less than 200, right? So it's more than, let's compare last year. So 222 for July, and then now we're at 198. So similar number of sales, right? Now let's look at the how many are available for sale and how many have accepted offers, right? So let's see the inventory here. So, right, so there's definitely more months of inventory. So we're looking at about, I would say 4 months of inventory, right, compared to 2 months of inventory for single families. So let's compare it to last year. So it's definitely increased, right? So the total number of the accepted offers is similar at 220 and 211, but the number available, right, has ballooned from 649 condos and townhouses available for sale to 800, right, and 31. And we'll see that in the sales price to list price ratio and the price per square foot. Okay, so we'll definitely see that, and we'll see it on the last stat, which is months as well. Okay, so now we're below 100%. So that means properties are selling below their original asking price, and the price per square foot is 500. So last year it was 617, right? And it was the sales price to list price ratio was 100%. So it's selling at asking price, and now it's 97.6%, and the price per square foot has dropped, right, from $617 per square foot to $578 per square foot. So the last pair of stats we're going to look at is our months of inventory and days on market. So how long it takes to accept an offer, to find an offer. So it should be taking longer than, right? So we're, like I mentioned before, about 4 months inventory and 27 days on the market. So last year was shorter, 18, right? And then only 3 months of inventory. So you can see things are taking longer and selling for less on the condo townhouse side. So let's now jump into a specific city, Walnut Creek, which I really like a lot, okay? And let's start with single family homes and the prices. So median sales price. So median sales price median, and number of sales. So, okay, that is okay, so it is spinning right now. I think this is doing the whole county. So let me really make sure I get Walnut Creek here. Okay, here we go. That makes more sense. So median sales price and number of sales. So median sales price, single family house in Walnut Creek is 1.5 million, and number of sales is 42 last month, and the previous was 1675 last year and 50 sales. So it's 10 less homes that sold, and they sold for $175,000 less on median. Right, so we'll see that number available, so active, and number where they're in contract. Right, let's compare that. So 89 active to 46 pending, right, versus 62 active last year and 37 pending. So definitely more inventory, so more choices for buyers, and only slightly less sales, right? So similar to what we saw in the county. And now let's see the ratio of sales price to asking price and the price per square foot here for single family houses in Walnut Creek. So we're looking at just under 100% here, 99.7 and $803 a square foot, whereas last year was $822 per square foot, so pretty similar, with the ratio being 103%, so selling a little bit over asking. It's a little bit below, and the price has cooled a little bit, right? So we can see, right, in the 700s. But it was at the peak above 800, so 830 here looks to be like the most recent peak on that. And going back to 2022, right, we got up to 885, right, of April 2022. So how much inventory do we have, right, and how long it's taking to sell? So back in 2022, right, less than a month of inventory in single-digit days, right? And now we definitely have double-digit days and 2 months of inventory, right? So you can see things have cooled. So it's like doubling the amount of inventory from 1.2 months of inventory to 2.1 months, and then the time to sell, it's still pretty fast, right? 12 days on market compared to 9 last year, and we can see that for the whole county, this is definitely moving faster Walnut Creek than the whole county as a whole, right? Which was about 21 for the county, but only 12 days on market for Walnut Creek. So now let's look at condos and townhouses here. So the median sales price and number of sales. Okay, so green line is the median sales price, right? So right around just under 700K, pretty flat, right, over the last 3 years. And the number of sales is 60 for last month, right? So at the peak, we were triple digit, right? So 112 sales in August of 2022, and now we're only at 62, right? And we compared to last year was 84, so significantly less, right? And the prices have crept up a little bit, right? From just under 600 to 636, right? But down from earlier this year at $700, right? $700,000 for the median sales price. So let's look at how many are available and the number of pendings. Okay, so inventory's definitely grown, right? We're at 186 and 69. They're paying 186 available condos and townhouses in Walnut Creek and 69 pending, compared to last year of 171 and 73. So pretty stable, I would say, the market for condos and townhouses, which is different than the county as a whole, right? So it's more healthy in Walnut Creek. So we're going to look at the sales price, list price ratio, and the square price per square foot. So let's look at that. So I bet it's going to be close to 100%. So 97.4, $547 per square foot, and it was 96.8% and 534. So very, very close, right? So not much change in the last year. And now that's the last thing. Let's look at months of inventory and days on market here. So 3 months of inventory, 26 days on market, right? Compared to 2 months of extra month of inventory, right? And things are taking 6 more days to sell. So not a huge change in inventory, but the speed of selling is not significantly slower. So that was Alameda County, as well as specifically looking at Walnut Creek. So the market's still moving, still healthy. I think for things that are priced well and prepared properly, things are selling in a reasonable amount of time. And for the buyers, there are definitely more choices because inventory has risen. And I would say less competition as well. I would look at the stock market, which is doing extremely well for supporting our home prices because the majority of compensation in the Bay Area here is through stock grants, right through. So it's tied very closely to that. The other thing I would add is there is a lot of uncertainty from employees, right, with different layoffs announced, right, across the industry. So that's my take on the market. And if you have any requests for specific cities or areas, feel free to DM me and I'll address those next time. Hope everyone has an awesome rest of your day.